In this series, we want to bring you agriculture with all the facets closer to you. Explain what works well, but also openly discuss where we see challenges. And having this open dialogue also on topics which run well, of course, always wonderful, but also on challenges ahead of us and say, come on, these are things which we have to conquer. Those are topics which we have to grab, and also where we need more than just BASF to do it. Because at the end of the day, it's about partnership and driving it together. In the industry, but also in the whole value chain, food value chain.
So, Dirk, nice to see you. So we haven't met each other for 4 months now, I think, in person.
Must be March something last time. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So after this challenging times, what would you say were the key lessons learned in the last couple of months?
Well, COVID, I think, is on one hand, I think, a challenge for all of us. You know, people, maybe run out of jobs. We had short-term employment and all these kind of topics. But something which I felt was really striking and gave me some rise for also hope is that agriculture and food really went back into the center part of it. And I think this is important for agriculture per se, because what farmers do and deliver, at the end of the day, they provide healthy and affordable food. Now the question is with the luxury we have in the Western world, is we on average have enough food, we have the highest quality ever and the best variety you can get on food. So the question is now, how do we bring value to it again, so it's appreciation for farming as well, and maybe COVID offers here, beside all the challenges, a unique opportunity.
What would you say that during the COVID times was the biggest challenge for agriculture, and is there a new normal also for farmers?
New reality, I mean, it could really be. Let's say, one of the challenges certainly is, and that was quite intensive, and you saw that around the world, is will farmers get the crop protection product, the seeds, the input they need? Is the supply chain interrupted? And I think here the whole industry did an excellent job in really, let's say, having a seamless supply chain. Products were there, farmers could, if certain diseases appear, could spray their products, could have the fertilizer when they need, seed was there, so that was really a great achievement of the whole value chain. The problem is, and you mentioned it, and I maybe a little bit too provocative, but maybe there's a new reality. And we have to cope with it. It is about how do we manage resources? How do we cope with climate change? And you just recently saw in the notes that 1.5 degrees is more or less set. We talk about, what does society really demand? Voices of society gets louder and demanding maybe a new agriculture, maybe a new kind of yield, which we have to provide with lower carbon footprint, etc. Those kind of topics. We see the Green Deal in Europe, for example, as one of the, let's say, new frameworks we're working upon. And then certainly I think technology, digitalization, can we have better application technologies? How do we cope with big data? How do we utilize those data to really get into farming and make it better? And then maybe due to COVID, another learning of uncertainty. How do farmers manage uncertainty? We had, let's say, trade wars with China and US impacting the value chain, impacting the prices of commodities. So the question for us is, at the end of the day, when you take all these 4 to 5 points together, people, resources, climate, technology, but also uncertainty, this kind of complexity to the power of 5, how do farmers manage this? And I think this is where we at BASF, but also industry, could really play a vital role to drive this, to help farmers to manage all these kind of topics, to balance it out.
When we look back at our beautiful pond with the geese, we have the feeling after coming back I would say after 4 months, that the geese took over, the nature is back. Would you say that the nature used in a positive way the pandemic and the absence of mankind in a certain aspect?
Well, the geese really took the pond at one point in time, for sure. Certainly there is a kind of, let's say, recovery in terms of, less CO2 are currently emitted because industry is down and we have to cope with all the challenges around it. But it's also, I think, a moment of pause where we have to say is our strategy, we are currently proposing a more volume-based strategy all over the industries. The right one, and they are like the Green Deal, for example, in offering ideas of recycling technologies, and that BASF, we are extremely intensive working on this topic. Our ChemCycling approach, our attempt really, let's say, to utilize all the resources in the Verbund system are the right ones to do so. But certainly what you're seeing is nature recovering. It's a long process.
Yeah.
It's an extremely long process. And you most likely can't see it from one day to the other. But if we, let's say, use COVID-19 and saying to restore our values and to reconsider our values as society, what nature also means to us, it's a different topic. But it's important that we use this kind of crisis to rethink our values and do the appropriate steps.
It's a perfect ending, I would say, an introduction to our next video that we'll do with you together. Is
Absolutely, I'm
the
looking
topic
forward
of
to it.
sustainability. And on the next video, Dirk will talk you over biodiversity with you on a example of a flowering strip. Thanks for being with us.
BASF. We create chemistry.